Planning commission might try to have input. He's the one that was the transfers up. Talk to all of them every day for 5 days straight. Yeah, I'm talking to all of them more. But the last 5 days that I've been pissed off, I call.
You're the one that
Good afternoon, it's 1:30. The Board of County Commissioners are holding a regular meeting on April 5th, 2022. County Commissioner Juan, Ronnie Mays, and Warren Brown. County Manager Derek Woodman, County Attorney Todd Weaver, and County Clerk and Chris Archuleta present. Call the meeting to order at 1:30. If you haven't done so, please silence your cell phones. We'll start with pledge of allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any disclosure conflicts of interest? No, sir. None. I should note that there is an adjustment we need to make to the agenda. Under new business, item C, consideration and approval of contract for reclamation of asphalt on County Road 92. It is supposed to be 382, and the bid went out that way, it's 382. So we should make that adjustment. Just clarify, one's in Archuleta and one's in Gromo.
It's 390.
Yes, 382. Commissioners, have anything else?
It appears as though the agenda as it's printed this afternoon is accurate.
Yes.
382.
There's nothing else, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I need to approve the agenda as presented with the adjustment of
A second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excuse me, now it's time for public comments. Anybody who's filled out a form, be called upon, approach the podium, you have 3 minutes to talk, please state your name and address for the record. Okay, I should do that right now. If you guys are here for the land use regulation hearing, I should note that there's a good chance that we will be tabling that topic after discussion this morning in the work session. So if you want to comment, fine, but it'll wait until that comes up, okay?
So that's just for the marijuana conversation?
I think because of the way the resolution is written, we're gonna table the whole thing, my understanding. Unless Todd has a recommendation.
I mean, it's simpler to do it that way, just because of how the resolution is drafted, to table the entire thing. And just for those of the audience, there was discussion this morning. I believe the commissioners requested that the planning department go back and make some changes to the marijuana regulations that are being back for the board. So that's the reason potentially it's going to be tabled today until when they're ready to bring it back.
Was it May 3rd?
Well, it's May 3rd, but I think they have to, since it's a public hearing, it has to be noticed again for the statutory requirement. Right, for the, so it will likely be delayed until May.
So if you want to stay and comment, that's fine, but we'll take comment when that comes up, when that item comes up. Okay. first one here is Mike Carey, and it is in reference to the land use. No, we're gonna go ahead and wait until it comes up on the agenda, for your comment, if that works. So, sir, well, I have a couple in here with you, so. Looks like we have two that are not in reference to that land use regulations, so. Okay, let's move on back. Is that it?
Was it Darren?
Is it Denny Place or Darren? I can't read it.
Darren Blair, perhaps?
Blair, maybe?
290 Navajo Lane.
Darren Black, maybe?
Maybe.
There you go.
That's your address. Yes.
Sorry, Darren.
Yeah.
Let's start now.
Yeah, go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
Darren Black, 250 Navajo Lane. Been a medical marijuana grower now for
Let me go ahead and stop because it doesn't specify that it was land use, so, but it looks like it is the land use deal that you wanted to discuss, correct?
Is this
In
for,
reference for the marijuana?
right, not the,
Right, so it just said with the people, so that's
yeah,
why.
I'm sorry.
That's right, if you wanna keep your comment until it comes up on the
Sure.
agenda, then that'd be great. Thanks, sir. So Bill Hudson, the only other one for housing.
Back for more housing. Bill Hudson, 446 Loma Street. Did have a question if you were gonna take public comment later on when you're discussing the courthouse sale.
Yeah, at that time we will.
You will take public comment during that? Okay. Thank you for letting me share some thoughts with you. You were approached at a work session a couple of weeks ago by a businessman here in town, Juan Taylor. And he seemed like he was asking for some special treatment on some publicly owned property to do some workforce housing. And in that conversation, he was offering to deed restrict the property once the homes are in place and for 5 years, so that there would not be used for short-term rentals for a period of 5 years, which to me implied that he was going to use them for long-term rentals. He mentioned that he was having conversations with former Commissioner Michael Whiting about a certain style of housing that is made by a company Mr. Whiting represents. And Commissioner Brown asked how much the homes would cost. And Mr. Gaylor said, I can't really say how much they're going to cost right now. And Commissioner Brown said, will they be priced under $400,000? And Mr. Gaylor said, oh yes, he was sure they would be priced under $400,000. And there seemed to be some interest from the commission on this proposal. So I wanted to share with you the company that Mr. Whiting. Okay. This is the company that Mr. Whiting represents. And they do appear to be under $400,000. They're made out of containers. And I have no personal objection to shipping containers. That might be something we have to do in the future. But what I'm asking the commission to think about is, do we want to give away public property to someone who's going to deed restrict their property for 5 years when they're going to own the property forever or sell it? If we're gonna give away property forever, maybe the deed restriction should be forever, because that's the benefit that we, the taxpayers, would get from a project like this. Another approach would be leasing the property. And I would be happy to talk with you at any time about these ideas. You can drop me a line or give me an email.
Yeah, I'd be happy to get with you, Bill.
Thanks.
The other thing is though, you know, this will be in an HOA. So I'm not sure if PLPOA allows cargo containers to be put in there.
That's the company that Mr. Whiting represents.
It may be one of the companies he represents, but we don't know everything about it. So I'd be happy to sit with you.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're gonna close public comments. Looks like everybody else is in reference to the land use, so we'll wait till that comes up. Move on to proclamations. First up is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Ashley Wilson, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for letting me speak to you all and to a room full of people. I know you're all here for other reasons, but I'm really glad you're here for this. My name is Ashley Wilson and I work with Rise Above Violence. We are a local domestic violence and sexual assault nonprofit that serves Archuleta County. And April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so we are bringing a proclamation to the county to have April declared Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Archuleta County. So, proclamation by the Board of County Commissioners of Archuleta County, Colorado. Whereas every 73 seconds an American is sexually assaulted, and whereas every 9 minutes that victim is a child, and whereas 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience sexual assault before the age of 18, and whereas 1 in 3 teens will experience sexual or physical abuse or threats from a boyfriend or girlfriend this year alone, whereas 1 out of every 5 women and 1 out of every 71 men are survivors of rape, and whereas American Indian women are 2 times more likely to experience sexual violence compared to all other races. Whereas 32 victims of sexual assault were served by Rise Above Violence last year, and we know that there are many more who haven't reached out for help. Whereas we must work together to give a voice to the victims of sexual violence, and whereas we must educate our community about what can be done to prevent sexual assault and support survivors and victims. And whereas sexual assault affects every person in Archuleta County in some form, whether as a victim, a family member, a friend, a child, a neighbor, or a coworker, and it is more important than ever to support victims of sexual violence in our community so that they know they are not alone. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Archuleta County, Colorado hereby proclaim the month of April 2022 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Archuleta County. And we wish for our citizens and visitors to know that there is always help available through Rise Above Violence, and we will show our support throughout this month and the entire year.
Thank you. And I know we say it every year, just like you come and read this for us, but we really appreciate the work that you do with the victims. You know, these numbers, a lot of people don't, normally when we have these resolutions and these, proclamations, we don't have a number of people in this room. We'll have something that controversial coming up, but it's important that people understand the severity. So, thank you.
Thanks for being here, appreciate it.
And I think just the last point, these aren't numbers, these are people. These are your mother, your father, your brother, sister, your children. These are people, they're not numbers. And I think that's what you do with your work, to try to make sure people understand that these are people, they're not numbers. And it's important. So thank you for that. Motion.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I move to proclaim the month of April 2022 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Archuleta County as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ashley, for everything.
If that's what we need to do, we're going to, I was gonna ask you to do it now.
Oh, you're sweet. Okay, hold on.
Hold on.
Come on, here.
I know, you
There we
skipped the beginning. should be in here.
Okay, item B, proclamation for National Library Week. City of Delaware.
Good afternoon, thank you for your time. I'm going to be reading off the board. Thank you all for being here. This week is National Library Week. It's a proclamation by the Board of County Commissioners of Archuleta County, Colorado, whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that foster a sense of connection and build community. And whereas libraries connect people to technology, providing access to broadband internet, computers, and training that are critical for accessing education and employment opportunities. And whereas libraries offer opportunities for everyone to connect with new ideas and become their best selves through access to multimedia content, programs, and classes, in addition to books. And whereas today's libraries and their services extend far beyond the four walls of a building and everyone is welcome to use their resources. And whereas in times of crises, libraries and library professionals play an invaluable role in supporting their communities both in person and virtually. And whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equity across access for all. And whereas to adapt to our changing world, libraries are expanding their resources and continuing to meet the needs of their patrons. And whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. And whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. And whereas the Ruby System Library is joining the Ruby System Library Foundation to celebrate National Library Week with the Library Affair fundraising event on April 9th, 2022. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Archuleta County, Colorado hereby proclaim April 3rd through 9, 2022 as National Library Week. During this week, we encourage all residents to connect with their library by visiting online or in person to access resources and services. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Commissioner, comments?
I would like to say that I know that I use our library quite often, as does my family, and I really appreciate the availability and the quality of the library that we have and the effort that's gone into making it a quality library, so thank you for that.
You know, Archuleta County and the library have come a long ways. I remember back when Jackie Schiff was in charge of the library downtown next to the fire department where the bell tower is. She was a valuable resource to the county too, as well as Ms. Ruby System. And you know, I'm glad to see that it's coming to a bigger fruition. It's always willing to grow and change because it really provides a better access for children who don't have the access to internet connection, to books. I used to hang out at the old library downtown. It gave me a whole different world as a young person. It also encouraged me to be a firefighter too, because it was right next door. But other than that, I really appreciate the volunteer people that keep it going and keep it very alive. So thank you.
I spent a lot of time in the library when I was in junior high years. Circumstances dictated, just couldn't wait on parents to get out of work, but it was a good experience for me. It was a good, safe place, and I do appreciate all the services that you guys do offer, not just kids, but there's a lot of learning experience for adults as well in there. So, thank you.
Thank you all for your continued support financially and for everything you do for us.
Entertain motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to proclaim April 3rd through the 9th, 2022 as National Library Week in Archuleta County as presented.
I second.
It's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Your steps in today.
Yeah. Get our steps in. Our steps in.
Yeah, wherever you want.
Katie's online.
Okay, online.
Yeah.
Okay, item C, National Public Safety Telecommunications. Presenter Katie Carr. Apparently she's dispatching.
Greetings. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Sorry I have to be remote. I am plugged in and dispatching this week. We're just a tiny bit short-staffed, so I'm coming at you from the dispatch building. But thanks for the opportunity to join you virtually to read this proclamation. I'm gonna read an abridged version so I can get back out there and keep supporting my crew on the floor. But thank you again for the opportunity to join with you virtually. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are a first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Archuleta County Combined Dispatch Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, the treatment of patients, and the suppression of fires, and whereas each dispatcher has exhibited resiliency, dedication, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Therefore, be it resolved that the Archuleta Board of County Commissioners declares the week of April 10 through April 16, 2022 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Archuleta County in honor of the women and men whose diligence and professionalism keep our community and first responders safe.
Well, on my part, I want to say thank you guys. I don't get to talk to you guys anymore like I used to, but I still appreciate all the good work that you do and being there to be that first line, so keep up the good work.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate you all. I appreciate the board's support of our center.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate everything you do. As you guys are a very, very important role in getting an emergency answered and called on. And just from my experience with fire, I really depended on you guys to give me all the proper information I needed to know about before I went into a situation I had no eyes on yet. And it's very, very important for you guys, and it's very important that we recognize how important you are to us. And thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And Katie, I would like to also say thank you. You know, a lot of people don't realize that fire gets called sometimes to an emergency. EMS gets called sometimes to emergency in law enforcement. Well, they get called to an emergency sometimes as well, but you get called every time for an emergency. And you're always that center point that helps everything get organized, also to save lives and to help people out in a myriad of ways, not just emergency. And you get a lot of phone calls, I know, every day that are non-emergency as well, and you always seem to direct them to the correct place. So thank you for being the backbone of emergency services and with our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that.
Okay, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to proclaim April 10 through 16, 2022 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Archuleta County as presented.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
You're gonna miss your picture.
You have a good afternoon. Yeah. Okay. Item A. I don't have my instructions. Do I need to recess the meeting, sir? Abatement hearing?
No, it's not.
Okay. Perfect. Abatement hearing, petition for abatement on refunded taxes. Johanna Tully Elliott.
I'm right here. I'm kind of feeling like I need a week though, National Assessor Week or something like that. I could use some more love in my life. I'm the Lady Assessor. I'm here to present two abatements. Account R019215, owner Darren and Soraya Elsmore, address 2324 County Road 400. Abatement in the amount of $6,849.60. This abatement exceeds a limit of $5,000. That authorizes the county assessor to sign off on her resolution 2021-47. Darren has been on the Forest Ag program since 2016. In 2021, he was not recommended for the Forest Ag program because he missed paying the fee that is due every year. For 2022, he is back on the Forest Ag program and has met all the requirements for the Forest Ag program. There was no lapse in his intentions as he did continue to maintain the land with the Forest Ag requirements. Therefore, I'm recommending approval of this abatement.
Commissioners, have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
I entertain a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the abatement of 2021 taxes scheduled for R019215 at 2324 County Road 400, owned by Darren and Sarah Elsmore, in the amount of $6,849.60 as presented.
I second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, the second one is account R007834. Owner is BoCC Peak Open School, address 7 Pirelli Way. Abatement in the amount of $6,739.88 for the year 2020 and $43,698.24 for tax year 2021. This abatement exceeds the limit of $5,000 that authorizes the county assessor to sign off on for resolution 2021-47. BoCC Peak Open School purchased this building and land in May of 2020. Our office thought they had to go through the Department of Taxation for their exemption status. So the exemption was removed for the part of the year in 2020 and for the full year in 2021. DPT notified our office on March 11th, 2021 that this is a local exemption and they should not have lost exemption status. Therefore, I'm recommending approval of this abatement.
Any questions?
No, sir, thank
I entertain a motion.
you. Mr. Chair, I move to approve an abatement of taxes for Schedule R007834 at 7 Pirelli Way, owned by BoCC Peak Open School Building Corporation, in the amount of $6,739.88 for the 2020 and $43,698.24 for 2021 as presented.
A second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay, 157, the recess of the regular meeting and convene the land use regulation hearing. Anthony Beth,
Hello, gentlemen.
raise your right hand.
Yes,
Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
So we have, land use regulations here. Not all of it is related to marijuana. Most of it is. So, we discussed this morning, there were some changes you wanted me to make, and I've obviously not had a chance to make those yet, so I recommend that we, delay discussing that until we can make those changes and see if we come, more in line with your desires. There are other items that could be voted on in different sections, but I understand the resolution doesn't really make that very easy, so, there's certainly no reason not to just delay it all. Ability to go out. By then I'll have more, I'm sure.
Okay. Commissioners, have any questions?
No, we posed all our questions this morning in the work session and all our changes as well. And I don't know if public's here, if we can inform them of what they missed in the work session this morning.
Would you like me to
Do a
just
brief
summarize what
overview,
it?
yeah?
Yeah, if you could summarize
Okay.
them.
So, the latest version of the regulation, it had changed some since the very first version anyway, but what we're going to be doing is changing the language regarding plant count limits to say 6 per person, limit of 12 per parcel,
And if you have a medical marijuana card and you, would like to have 24, you can come get what we're gonna put on, a free use by right permit. We're gonna create a free permit for this, particular category of use by right review that would have no cost, to increase to 24 limit per parcel. I think that's the first thing we agreed on for the plant campus. Second thing that we talked about was the enclosed locked non-temporary building. We're gonna change the word building to space and take out the compliant with building codes. So that would not require a full building. So that's still shielded from view, still all of the blocked and all of that, which is consistent with the statute. And we're gonna keep the requirement to have a parcel where we're growing marijuana be occupied while growing is ongoing, cultivation is ongoing. And I think those are the three.
That's
Pretty much the changes.
That's as I recall it.
Okay, this time we'll open it to public comment. Anybody in favor? Or anybody opposed? If you just want to make comments, since we're not going to make a decision, I think I can dispense it.
Yes, you can.
What's your name?
My name is Mike Branson. I live at 2240 Crooked Road. I'm a Marine veteran. I served in Iraq with 4th Reconnaissance Battalion. I actually managed our whole network for the whole battalion. The only person in my whole battalion that did computer networking. I got an award for what I did in the Marines. I came back thinking that I was going to do computers for the rest of my life and realized I like people more than computers, and had a huge dramatic change. Coming back from Iraq with 6-figure jobs at 20 years old, I went and took a $40,000 a year job to do something that my heart was in the right place. And I have a friend here today that has been trying to get me to move here for over 7 years. And finally, with the crazy pandemic that happened, we moved here about 2 years ago and found our little slice of paradise. I got 3 kids. I give back to this community. I work in construction, and this is actually some of the best news I've heard all day. I really appreciate you guys listening, thinking this through, because a lot of us are here because we're infuriated that you guys are taking away our rights as medical patients, especially, which I believe someone should be chiming in as protected under the Colorado Constitution. But, some of us are veterans. 22 veterans are killing themselves every day. I know plenty of veterans that have been prescribed over 10 different medications that they got off all of them with the use of cannabis. Zoloft, Praxil, Prozac, etc. These are all given to us, which all have horrible side effects. I was sick every day, throwing up, nauseous for 2 weeks straight, and I was treated like a criminal, My dad thinks cannabis is heroin. No joke, he served during Vietnam and he saw what heroin did to the military. And even him can see what this is doing for me. And he's like, I hate cannabis, but you're doing a great job, so keep it up. I'm the guy that will show up at your house in the middle of the night because your furnace broke or your pipes are leaking. And a lot of people here that grow cannabis, we need it for medicine. You're limiting us, I thought, to 12, which is 1/6 of what my doctor recommended I needed to go through my days. Because of PTSD, and I guarantee you guys have better knees than me. I'm 35, and I have a degenerative knee issue from carrying a 70-pound pack miles through the mountains. I'm in pain every day. It hurts me to pick my 2-year-old son up. And you're telling me that I don't have the right to grow the medicine that I need? That maybe I need to go back to the VA and get pills because I can't afford to go to a dispensary and spend thousands of dollars every year to get the medicine that it cost me $250 last year to grow. But really the only issue, I'm cool with 24 plants personally, but the clear plastic thing wasn't something that was brought up. Many of us grow in greenhouses, that's a big issue. I think that we should be allowed to grow with clear plastic on. And the other thing is, if you've ever grown vegetables or cannabis, not jumping to conclusions on you guys, but would you have already started your seeds? Would you already propagating? Would you be planting your fields? Would you be putting them out there? Would you have already done that?
Right.
You know, and you're making us hold off on our decisions on what we're going to do and plan for our farm and for our medicine for a whole other month. But I do greatly appreciate your service to this community. I do greatly appreciate the planning committee and all they do. But I'm also very upset with them that they did not listen to any of the input of the community when they were putting this
A
together.
lot of it, they follow direction too, and they're all individuals, and they make their best judgment as well too. So, you know, don't hold it personally against them. They're doing a lot of what we direct or what we direct staff to do.
Yeah, I mean, I try to tell Pamela thank you every time I see her because I know you give her.
She deserves it. She doesn't deserve the hell, but she deserves the thank you every now and then because her job is very, it's very tedious and it does put her in a lot of compromised positions, but those positions aren't her choice. And she's following direction.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate your comment.
Okay, next up, Janet Coral?
Yep.
Afternoon. Please state your name and address.
Janet Coral, I'm at 143 Harris Court, and it's up in Aspen Springs 6. There were 3 areas that I really wanted to address, and I'll apologize for shaky voice. I don't speak in front of very often. The full-time, I think, might be already addressed,
It was.
because we do live off-grid, so staying in the winter, we tried it this year. We probably won't do it again. So we usually leave for several months in the winter. And so that wording was very confusing as to whether that would eliminate us or not. I grow CBD plants, and that started, I haven't been a huge cannabis fan until a few years ago. My daughter-in-law and my son have 5 children. And she was 32, I believe. And her doctor had prescribed Dilaudid, which is an opioid. She ended up dying from an opioid overdose. She left my son with 5 children, ranging from the age of 1 year to 13 years. And until then, I didn't realize what the issues were with opioid. You hear about it, but unless you're right with it, you have no idea. And so I did some research, and this cannabis plant has got so much potential. I started finding people who, with military injuries, mental or physical, injuries from accidents, back especially, have been able to come completely off the opioid prescriptions by using cannabis, and they function perfectly fine in their day-to-day lives. They can hold down jobs, and it's not a Russian roulette with this plant. Personally, I found that CBD works very well for muscle spasms, which I deal with in my back. So no more anti-spasm medicine. I don't want the chemicals, so I want to grow my own organically, and I want to know what gets put on it. There was some confusion, I think, with those who don't deal with the plants. I don't smoke anything. I don't smoke or vape it. So anything I do has to be edible. So when I went for my medical card, they gave me a plant count of 24. I'll never do this. This is great to me, but okay, thank you. Well, after trying to make edibles, you use a huge quantity. Now, I don't know how much I used to smoke, but I did some quick math, and the gummy batch that I made lasts for 10 days. And I used between 1.5 and 2 ounces of the little CBD buds, okay? And if you calculate that out, that's 4.5 pounds a year. Okay, well, that's why this doctor knew how many to prescribe for me on my card. because you have to have a large quantity in order to make the edibles, like the ghee and the coconut oil, and the gummies. So a little bit of education for anybody who's not really dealt with it. That's why the plant counts with medical cards are prescribed higher for anybody, especially who uses edibles. The biggest thing that I really wanted to address was a 50-foot setback. We live in an acre lot. In Aspen Springs, we have lots of trees. I have 2 places on my entire property that I can put a greenhouse that gets sun. And one of them is at the corner, both of them are at the corners. We have empty lots on either side. There's nobody up there. And a 50-foot setback would be cutting trees.
I think that's not even in there any longer.
Well, it wasn't
It
addressed
wasn't, we didn't talk about that.
as a change.
But we did talk about having a
variance.
free variance for that as well, so they could apply for a
It's already
variance.
constructed there, but.
Oh, okay, so, okay,
So
because I did listen
there's
to
a lot
that
of
and I
things that
didn't
are
hear
gonna
it.
come up, but.
Yeah, this way it doesn't affect the neighbors, because there's, lots that are 50 by 150. And that's,
Right.
that's where the problem starts.
Now, in the regulations you have right now, it clearly states that if you're growing any plants, regardless of what size, they have to be hidden from neighbors and view.
Well, that's state statute.
So law enforcement already has the ability to go out and address that. Making a setback seems to be a hardship on other people to hit a regulation.
We mainly stuck with the state.
We wanted to follow the state statute, is what we're requesting.
So the state statute has a 50-foot setback?
Does
Does
it?
not.
Oh, okay.
This doesn't either. I mean,
The new one should not, because we
It
wanted to
won't?
follow the state statute.
That will be very helpful.
So, but, and state statute is only 24 plants per residential property.
And that's
what
good
the
too.
medical.
Yes.
That's what's medical.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so that's, those are the 3 I wanted to address. So thank you very much. It sounds like you've been listening to some of the input that you've been getting. All right, guys. Thank you.
Chris Patton?
I just was concerned about the 50-foot setback because I already have
That's
a
already
greenhouse on my
established.
property and I don't wanna have to move it. And having to apply for a variance if it's gonna cost me.
Sorry.
No worries.
This helps our county clerk.
Yeah, Chris Patney, 755 Squaw Valley Place. 5 years ago, I installed a greenhouse on my property. It's a pretty big greenhouse. It's got a concrete foundation. When I asked the flower about the setback, she said, well, you can apply for a variance, it's $100. And if your neighbor doesn't like it, that'll cost you $375 to put myself at the mercy of you guys to ask for a variance. I'm like, why should I have to pay for something that was installed within the guidelines years ago? And he would have to apply for a variance. I think any greenhouses or grow domes that are in place should be grandfathered in for no cost at all to the property owner.
Well, I think there are instances where there are some people that don't appreciate marijuana, the smell of it, growing or otherwise. And I think, and it's in the, it speaks to it in an amendment, the quality of life for not only the folks that are growing, but also for their neighbors. And I think this is kind of what it was speaking to. And this was under the House Bill 17-1220. And it talked about the large-scale cultivation sites and residential properties that create essentially issues a site can cause. And I'm just paraphrasing and pointing out the specifics. So just to let you know to speak to this. A site can cause water damage, mold in a residential property, and it can produce a noxious smell that limits the ability of others who live in the area to enjoy the quiet of their home. So I think the setbacks, in part, that's what it was speaking to.
But the
If I'm
setbacks,
getting this correct.
all it said was greenhouses and grow domes. It didn't say whether you weren't growing.
Right.
If I don't grow in there, so do I have to move my greenhouse or get a variance if I'm not growing marijuana?
I don't know that answer, but she will.
Yeah.
That was one of the changes I made in between the 2 discussions,
Yes.
was I added a clarification, this is only pertains to marijuana cultivation. No other kind of cultivation will the setback have applied. but it sounds like it's coming up.
But if I choose then to grow my 12 plants that I can grow recreationally, am I then required to get a variance for a greenhouse that was installed within the law 5 years ago? Or am I gonna be grandfathered in, so I can leave it right where it is and not
Sounds
have
like
to?
it's coming out, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
I have anything to worry about.
I'm just checking. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, next up, Matt Witt.
Hey guys, Matthew Witt, I live at 29 La Costa Court. Mainly the setback thing. I don't think it's very constitutional to have your neighbor telling you what you can and can't do with your property. Bottom line, it's a constitutional right given to us through our citizens that we voted on. What? 10 years ago, we did the medical stuff. 20 years ago, and we're bringing this back up. I remember having, being at the meeting when we discussed the first commercial operation here. We had a county commissioner sit there and say, we lost Vietnam because of marijuana. That is the prejudice that we have against marijuana. And I want to remind you that marijuana prohibition was initially started to target Latinos. It has roots and legacies in racism, all right? So I want to point that out. So all the prohibition, all the regulations stemming from that has its roots firmly rooted in racism against Latinos. And like I want to address the setback. So you think it's okay for, an out-of-towner who owns the property next to me, some Texan to tell me I can't grow marijuana on my property? Something I voted for 10, 20 years ago? That doesn't make sense. If you're gonna apply the setback to growing marijuana, why don't you guys apply that setback to short-term rentals? Short-term rentals do way more damage to this community than marijuana does. But you guys don't address that, do you? Let's get all neighbors around every short-term rental to give that person permission to operate a short-term rental in their neighborhood. They bring more crime in and all that. And then, sorry, I'm wrong. There it is. And then let's address the whole thing about kids and crime associated with marijuana. Well, the leftists use that same argument about guns. They say the kids are using guns to go into the schools and shoot them up. They say criminals use guns to come in and, do crime. So that's why we need to ban guns. So the leftists use that argument to take our rights away. So this whole argument that my neighbor can tell me what to do, or that the government can tell me I can't practice my constitutional rights, that's the leftist idea. And you guys are all supposed to be Republicans. So are you rhinos, or are you real Republicans? And that's all I got to say. And also, crack your Bible open when you get home tonight, and look at Genesis 1:29. And it says, God gave us all seed-bearing herbs to use. That's all I gotta say.
And God also said for us to obey the laws of the land too.
Yeah. Genesis 1:29, buddy. And what book does that come from?
I believe it's in there. It's in the scripture, bud.
Yeah, what book?
I can't quote it.
What scripture? Yeah, you can't quote it, can you? And I also tell you to look up the history of marijuana.
Look, I'm giving you the respect.
I'm arguing, I'm debating back and
Matt,
forth.
I'm giving you the respect you deserve by not interrupting you and listening to you.
I just asked you a question when you were
And I am
done.
not finished.
Okay?
I didn't come here prepared for anybody to throw scripture at me like that, or else I might have been prepared. Okay?
Hey, I'm prepared every day with scripture, bud.
I live it, man.
Maybe, yeah, I live it too.
I don't know it, but I live it.
Well, how can you live it if you don't know it?
Thanks, Matt.
I mean,
Yeah, what you
Hey,
mean
Jared,
and what you say
hold
are
on.
two different things.
yeah.
Is that correct? Omis? Say that one more time, I didn't hear.
Jared Omis.
Omis, okay. Thanks, sir. State your name and address, please.
Jared Omis, 49 Sweet Court. I'm gonna start with, I got 293 signatures of people in our county who highly don't want this to happen. This, it doesn't make any sense. I've already taken out most of the nonsense stuff, but y'all are still not looking at the fact that this is going against state constitution. let's see here, I pulled up some stuff. So the land use regulation is in violation of the Colorado Constitution expressly written rights for medical marijuana patients. Pursuant to Article 18, Section 14, Clause 2, subsection B, that effective June 1st, 1999, it shall be an exception from the state's criminal laws for any patient or caregiver in lawful possession of registry, identification card to engage or assist in the medical use of marijuana. The land use regulation does not qualify for and is not relevant to the criminalization of use of medical marijuana under these amendments. And that's what this is doing, it's criminalizing medical marijuana patients. You say it says 24, you need to look further into it. It says doctor's recommendation very clearly after it states 24.
What year was that?
1999.
99, it was amended in 2017.
This is different. There's two different sections in the Constitution. One deals specifically with personal grow, which is your right as a Colorado citizen to grow 6 plants. There's a whole nother section that specifically states that medical patients have other rights and other laws and that deal with that. It's two separate things. You cannot put those together. In the Constitution, it's two separate things. So an attempt to criminalize patients, approved prescriptions by both a doctor and a bona fide relationship with a patient, as well as approved by the Colorado Marijuana Enforcement Division. Archuleta County has failed to acknowledge and legally distinguish between medical and personal use grows, which are governed by two different laws and have different standards of use in the Constitution of Colorado. I don't know if y'all have any respect for that, but you need to think about what you're doing and read deeper into the Constitution and how this is very separate. My medical rights are very separate from my state rights when it comes to my marijuana. Medical rights are in two different places in the Colorado Constitution are protected. Not just medical marijuana is protected. Just because it's marijuana doesn't mean that it's not the same medicine as other medicine. So if you look further into the Constitution, there's sections that protect us. Just medical patients in general. Doesn't matter if it's marijuana or not. These doctors are phony, and it's not like Pamela Flowers is an expert. The state has hired and had experts put these regulations in and reinvented the Constitution to shut down the black market. They did a good job at it. It used to be able to grow 600 plants plus in this county. I knew people that did. She's no expert. My personal opinion, she doesn't need to be writing these things.
She's following direction, so she brings whatever we ask her to do to us for a decision.
Okay.
Okay, so don't put it on her.
Well, I mean, the first stuff, y'all wanted that? Y'all wrote the first, all that legislation?
Us all didn't, it was before us.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about.
All
I
we're trying to
I can't speak in.
All we're trying to do is get it right back to state statute.
Well, then why are we wasting more tax money waiting a month? Let's just go, let's do state statute like we can do.
That's not how it works, I'm sorry, but if you don't like the way it works, that's just
No,
not how it works.
that's not the problem, but we're just wasting tax money.
Commissioner Brown has a comment.
So under Colorado Revised Statute 25.1.5-106, parens 8.s, parens A-S, parens I, and parens 8.6, parens A, parens 1.5. So apparently it's quite a ways down there. It speaks to the 24 plant limit. It says if the county or municipality does not limit the number of marijuana plants, a medical marijuana patient or a primary caregiver can grow up to 24 marijuana plants under the following circumstances. 1, the patient or primary caregiver is registered with the state licensing authority registry, and in parentheses it reads MEDC link below, for contact information as required by Colorado Revised Statute 25-1.5-106, parens 8.6, and the patient or primary caregiver provides notice to the applicable county or municipality of the residential cultivation operation if the county or the municipality requires such notice. 24 plant limit per property, not per person. The plant limit applies per residential property, as the plant limit applies regardless of the number of persons residing either temporarily or permanently at the property. So that's consistent with the law that's on the book.
Could I make a quick comment, just to clear some things up?
You got your name and address, but just a second, we've got other people on this.
Okay, Curtis Markham, 244 Carroll Square.
Sir, we got other people in front of you, so you're welcome to do so, but in order.
Warren, did you read that first sentence in that, if you still have it up, because I think the first thing it said was if the county has not limited it,
That's correct.
Correct.
which means the county could limit it to 12.
It does.
Yes, they could. They could. This specifically deals with the county or municipality that do not have a specified limit.
Okay. Darren Black, you're next.
Darren Black, 250 Navajo Lane. Can't get all what I need to talk about in 3 minutes, so. Cancer is the first thing. I'm a cancer survivor of 2 years, 6 years actually. 2 years I've been under stage 1 for my use of cannabis that I grow. I've worked with over 200 stage 4 cancer patients protected by the Cancer Association of America with other healers I work with. 98% of the people in this room have cancer. It's at what point does it get bad enough for us to go get checked out? With the doctors right now in our fields, they can't even detect cancer until it's a stage 2 because it's strictly a money issue. They want to scare you into getting chemotherapy and radiation. I'm stage 2 cancer 6 years ago. I'm down to 0.45 from my own medical use, growing my own cannabis. Secondly, cannabis is not psychoactive until heat's applied to it. So as far as endangering kids growing plants, there's nothing bad about it. Kids can eat it. You can eat as much as you want to. You get 600 times the medicinal properties of cannabis when eaten raw. So if I was in y'all's position, I would not only suggest to everyone in the county that they need to grow cannabis and ingest it with every meal. I would insist on every person in this county to grow cannabis and eat it. It is non-psychoactive. It treats. I'm a donation only with what I do and with what I grow. I've had many people come to me with stage 4 cancer 5-6 years ago because they've been tortured with chemotherapy and radiation over the last 2 to 3 years, sent home to die when they finally contact the 3 healers that I work with around America. As far as the plant count, I have 5 acres. I have a grow right in the middle of 3 different parcels. They're all one. I think I've approached Pamela in the past year or so to replot my property. Would like to do something with the bottom property, but my grow is right in between my property line of 2 of my plots. So that I really don't understand. I don't have neighbors that really care around me, so I don't think I can. Anyway, let's see. I'm flabbergasted with what you are doing. I can't imagine me who had a 99 plant count for 3 or 4 years, and then it got taken down to a 48 plant count where I can grow 24 plants. I guess, I'm not real sure how it works. They say if you grow 1 time a year and you're not growing indoor, that you can grow your whole plant count. So there's a lot of stuff that's in confusion about growing. But I have many people that will back the use. And lastly, what is it? The House just passed to take cannabis off of the Schedule 4 whatever, so it's already been passed in the House. Of course, it probably won't pass in the Senate. There's too much corruption there, too much money to be lost from all the pharmaceutical companies. And I don't really know what else to say. I had a speech and I lost it, and it's unfortunately that I did lose it because
It happens to all of us.
I couldn't put everything in it in 3 minutes.
Come back in May, and when we do this again, you can say it.
Well, all I know is with someone with that, we should already be able to start our seeds and get everything going. As far as the opaque, we are too close to the sun in Archuleta County. We're 700-600 feet. The sun is too intense. We need a shade cloth. We need plastic. We can't even grow some garden stuff, fruits and vegetables at this intense sun. So,
Well, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay, next up, Robert. Ron?
I don't miss it, I'm just Nondorf.
Nondorf?
Yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
I don't need to right now. That wasn't new as my eyes, so.
Okay.
Name and address, please.
Name and address is Robert Nondorf. I live at 482 County Road 917, BoCC Springs. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a veteran of 4 combat deployments. I have a Purple Heart. I was wounded in action, serving this country, serving for your freedoms. Now I hear petty stuff like, you want to tell me what I can use or what I can't use to cover my greenhouse. How petty is that? What, is that the country we live in? Somebody's telling me what building materials to use now? I don't tell you guys what to use on your house. I don't go by your house and look. I don't care. It's extremely petty what you're doing. I have a doctor that thinks I need 75 plants. I don't know this confusion about the 24 or whatever, but a doctor said I need 75 plants, so that's what I'm going by. If you want to take them, come try to take them. That's it. That's all I got to say to you people. I'm done.
Thank you. That was the last one. Sir, if you want to come up
Yeah.
and state your name and address, we'll go.
Curtis Markham, 244 Carroll's Terrace, and it's just regarding if you guys are adopting the Colorado state law with medical marijuana. It does if you're zoned residential, say 24 plants, but if you're zoned agricultural, you are allowed up to 99 plants, which most of Aspen Springs is actually zoned agricultural. And I actually just had issues this past summer growing more than 24 plants, and I've had my whole case dropped and all my charges dropped because then no one read the Colorado state law that you actually are allowed to grow 99 plants on agricultural land, which is most Aspen Springs. So if you guys are adopting state law, people in this county are still, with doctor recommendation, allowed to grow up to 99 plants if they're zoned agricultural. So that's a lot.
That's the law, agriculture. That's the same thing I was speaking on, and I was shut down with whatever y'all tried to shut me down with. I have 20 acres of agriculture, so like, you guys can't limit me to 24 plants.
We have one more comment.
Okay.
I'm gonna put 75 of them right on the street.
Sorry.
Hello, my name is Karen Albert. I live at 1850 County Road 35. I just want to touch on a couple of things. Well, first off, medical patients do have different plant counts and different medical card sizes for a reason. They need a medical they need a medical doctor to tell them, give them a condition they have to be diagnosed with before they can go in front of another doctor, which actually prescribes you your med card. You have to bring proof of your diagnosis and your reason of why you need these plants. And those doctors prescribe you the number of plants needed for your condition. And for example, there's quite a few people who have over 30 plant cards because they don't smoke weed. They take in edibles, they use tinctures, they use salves, they use other things. So, and you have to press it down into wax. It takes 7 grams of bud to make 1 gram of wax. Then you have to infuse that into other things to actually get the effects from it. So it uses a lot more product than just smoking it. It goes away a lot faster. You have to grow more plants to counteract that measure. One thing that I noticed nobody really talked about is from my understanding, the Sheriff's Department is backing this notion, correct?
I don't know if they're backing it, it was brought up originally.
I think it was brought up originally in one of the other conversations, something about the Sheriff's Department was backing this, and I'm assuming that they're doing that because they're trying to control illegal black market sales in the county and the town. Well, I can tell you right now that the people who are growing it illegally are already growing well over their plant counts. You can't grow in your legal plant counts and still be profitable in an illegal grow. So this right here only hurts the people who are actually following the rules. The state already has laws and guidelines and restrictions in place. Why is the county trying to take even more away from us? This is BoCC Springs. This isn't Denver. Like, we come out here, this is the middle of nowhere. This is where you come to do all your shooting guns on your property, because you can't do that in city limits. There are no real city limits here except for the town of BoCC Springs and then its outliers, which are still covered by the county. Which also brings me to the point that this is still Pagosa Springs. Nobody's gonna tell me that what I can and can't do on my land. Like, it's our land. If they have a problem with the look of a greenhouse, they can come over here and take it up with me, but I'm not gonna change it. And not only that, the issue of kids going in and getting around the medical marijuana plants, somebody already previously said it, that we're a really high altitude and the sun will damage the plants. So we have to put them in grow tents and stuff if you do an outdoor grow. If the kids are running around inside of a grow tent, that's a parenting issue. They shouldn't be where they're not supposed to be. They shouldn't be on somebody else's private property running around in their grow tents. That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, we got one more. Deborah Brown.
This was on the sloping issue, not on the marijuana issue.
It was on the same deal, so you're welcome to talk about it.
Is that subject coming up? It is right
It
now.
was.
Oh, so right now, so sorry. Take your mask off.
Yeah, this would be the time that it's been postponed along with the marijuana.
Oh, okay.
State
So,
your name and address, please.
Deborah Brown, I'm with Colorado Dream Homes, a local builder of 29 years. And we've been working with Pamela and our surveyors on the sloping issues of the 40 feet away, the 15 foot in the back, and I guess we're in the process or maybe approving it, or I just wanted to do it from a perspective of a builder and what we have to do to go out and do a site analysis for them, and then the word engineering, what it requires financially, that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. It's just not the word engineering, there's a big price tag to it. You have to do the soils test, the boring, and then that's if you can get an appointment. Our last soils test engineering foundation, we were 4 months out before we could get an appointment with Troutner, who's the only person in the area. There's a couple more that have picked up. So then you have the soils test, you get your report, then you have to draw out the engineering. So I'm a little concerned that maybe there are realtors in the room that when we go out and sell this land, we are the Rocky Mountains, we're mountains, most of it's slopey. We're not down to the flat and level ones that are easy builds anymore. After 30 years, I've experienced that. And I'm just concerned of what, I need to ask a question. Why is the planning department going, are we just, were houses slipping off of the edge of the hill? Is this why we started getting involved in it? And then, and how many, and how close were they in engineering? When we worked with our engineers, it's like we'd stay 15 feet away without having to be thrown into engineering of any steep slopes. But now on the backside in Pamela, I've never met. And my son went down this morning, Tegan. We're trying to get clarity. The surveyors are trying to get clarity. I was just out with the surveyor, and here's what's going to happen. When we go out and do a site analysis for a client to tell them if they've got a buildable lot or not, we have to actually do a topo to be completely safe in what we're saying to that client. We can't go out anymore and say, oh yeah, we're 15 feet off the back of this hill and 40, we need a topo. Now this is a person who has not bought their lot yet, so I don't know if they're willing to invest the $1,200 that it's gonna cost to get an imaginary placement of the home on the lot with topo. So I'm concerned about that, of how do we proceed and how do I ask my clients who haven't even bought the land, and that's why I was questioning why the realtors aren't in here. I don't think they know what they're doing, frankly. I just don't think they understand the new rules that are gonna come down. Because when they're going out and selling a piece of land, they're saying, you can build anywhere you want on this piece of land. Well, that's not entirely true. And a 20% grade, we're gonna order a measuring device of our own, our levels and stuff. But it still doesn't stop the fact that when these people come in with a purchased piece of property that nobody told them about this rule. And then I've got to say one thing. I swore, and Ronnie, you'll know this, I've been before this board, I've lived here 38 years, and I've worked with the county commissioners on land use, on a number of problems, from building the Humane Society. I've been very involved in our community, but what I've watched happen over the years is we keep making rules that nobody enforces. And I mean, sound rules. I have a neighbor that totally violates sound rules. The sheriff won't come out and do anything about it. That's on the books, been on the books for years. But I'm very concerned that when we as entities, governmental entities, we start making these rules and we have no follow-up. I have watched this for years. We have a new compliance officer that I guess we've had some changeover, that nobody wants to go out and be the compliance officer to make people come in. But now going back to my original subject, I'm very concerned this is going to make right now, the costs are out there are outrageous of even being able to make a sale. Building materials, we don't know where they're headed, but this is going to do another layer of cost. I'm telling you, if you use the word engineering, you're talking no less than 10, and I just did an engineering foundation with the prescription part of it after they did the testing. We were at $25,000 to take out the clay soil, do the oversized footers, which coincidentally, our company has always done oversized footers since we started 29 years ago. So, are you proceeding with this today?
No, we're not.
Okay, so.
It's part of the land use.
Okay.
So we're not.
Can I clarify something?
Yeah, if you want to.
I know, I'm sure she's confused, so if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, can I have the podium?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. No. Okay, so we didn't review this, but as we sit here today, the land use regulations say if you are building on a slope of 20% or greater, you have to have a geotechnical engineering investigation and report. That's what she's talking about, the really expensive report that only 3 engineers in town will do, okay, in town. But they will come here and do it, it's months out, it's very expensive, okay? That's what it says today. So what I'm doing is not doing that, I'm undoing that, okay? So the way the regulation reads now is 20% or greater, you have to have the report or you can't build anything. What we're saying now is at 20%, you have to have engineered foundation plans, and that's all you have to have. Not that that's nothing, but that's all that you have to have. If you want to build on the slope, and the slope is 33%, so the slope is here, you want to build on it, right here, because you want that cool view, okay? Then you have to have a geotechnical engineering report, and you have to have all the foundation information match what the report says is necessary to make sure the house is safe and solid. And that is exactly what the building code says. So all I'm doing is making the land use reg agree with the building code. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to dial back what was done. And what happened is it's been in the regulation forever and nobody was enforcing it, speaking of rules that nobody enforces. And so I was trying to say, well, we gotta enforce it. So, and over time it became evident this, I could not figure out where 20% came from. I don't know where that's from. We're gonna get rid of that. We're just gonna say whatever the building code says is what we're gonna do. And that's what we're doing.
Right.
So yes, there will be more expense. Yes, and unfortunately in the county, a lot of the lots that are left, the ones people went, oh, that's too slopey, let's move on.
Right.
That's too slopey, let's move on. Well, that's what's left. So now they're buying them and they want to build on them, and so this is becoming a much more prevalent issue. But that's what I'm trying to do with this change here is undo that. Everybody has to have a geotechnical at 20%. And I'm also only requiring the geotechnical report if it's a habitable structure, so a house. Other than that, I don't care. So that's.
I need a point of clarity on the 40 feet and the 50.
Okay, that's in the building code. So the building code says if you're building not on the slope, but next to the slope, right? So there's a hill, and I want to build my house in front of it, or I want to go part way up the hill and flatten an area where I can build a house, right? If you do that, you have to be away from the slope a certain distance for the same reasons. So if the slope goes below your house, you have to be 40 feet away from the top of the slope, from where the slope drops off. If your slope goes up above your house, you only have to be 15 feet away from it, from the face of your structure to the bottom of the slope. And that, again, is exactly what's in the building code.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And can I ask when the next work sessions will be?
Those are all posted online. But
I think this will come up for a vote again, I assume the first meeting in May.
May 3rd will be the land use,
Before
we'll
you-
hear it, but she'll have a hearing between now and then, so.
Yeah, we'll do
So,
the.
and that would be with the planning commission coming up?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, nothing further. I guess we'll move on. Commissioners have any action comments?
Absolutely not.
Probably feels
What is it? Table the table. Yeah, I think so. All right, so we're down to action. We have a motion for action. Table it.
Mr. Chair, I move to table the discussion with regard to land use regulations that were scheduled today.
It's gonna be, May 3rd, I believe.
To May 3rd, yes, 2022.
Second. We good?
I believe so, since it's a public hearing, it has to be noticed. May 3rd, that's sufficient time?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, the May.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we're still on land use. We're still sworn in.
Thank you.
Moving on to
I think we can get to the next two, and I bet there's not much controversy. It's such a rare treat for me. So, first up, I think, is Martinez Mountain. Yes, Martinez Mountain Estates Amendment 2022. Kirk and Allison Beckman have applied for approval of PLN 22003, the Martinez Mountain Estates Amendment 2022-01, final plat, being a minor lot line adjustment of lots 21 and 22, creating lot 21Z and lot 22Z at the addresses of 383 and 203 Old Sawmill Road. The purpose of this action is to save several mature pine trees by moving the lot line and the setbacks accordingly. So they're literally taking the lot line and going from here to here. I mean, it's not really moving, it's just reshaping so that they can keep trees and move their setback to a place where they won't have to cut down trees to build their home. So that's the goal. They own obviously both parcels, and no new lots will be created with this action. So according to land use regulations, plat amendments, including minor lot line adjustments, don't have to go through the sketch plan or preliminary review at my discretion, and after review, this is simple enough, there was no reason to do those reviews, so we skipped those and went straight to final plat review. Also in this regulation under section 4643, minor lot line adjustments can be reviewed at the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners at public meetings instead of public hearings, so no public comment is necessary today. It wasn't taken at the Planning Commission because this is not a public hearing, it's a public meeting. Let's see, as I said, they own both parcels and no new lots are created, there are no lien holders involved. Both parcels are inside the POPO and therefore zone PUD, and future land use map designates the area for medium density residential development, and of course this children don't have any impact on any of that. Planning staff and outside agencies did review, and some of those comments were added as conditions, and then I did do the standards and review matrix, which is something new that I've started doing that I hope is useful to you, where I literally go through the regulations and find every standard that applies to this project, and then make a determination of whether or not they meet the standard, and if they don't, then I make a condition for it. So we did do that, and I attached the matrix to the report. So in this case, the applicant satisfied all of the conditions. All of the conditions were related to the plat map and just changes on the map, either administrative or remove a line or show something that wasn't shown. They did all of the corrections that were asked before we went to Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission reviewed this position at their March 23rd meeting, and their recommendations are reflected here with their unanimous vote. So based on the evidence provided, the Planning Commission recommends that the Board of County Commissioners find that the application does meet the review criteria for an amended MLLA final plat in sections 4.4 and 4.6 of the Archuleta County Land Use Regulations, and that the Board of County Commissioners approve PLN 22003, the Martinez Mountain Estates Amendment 2022-01 final plat, being a minor lot line adjustment of lots 21 and 22 to create lot 21Z and 22Z with no conditions as presented.
Questions or comments?
No, sir, thank you.
All right, any motion?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to approve PLN 22003, the Martinez Mountain Estates Amendment 2022-01, final plat with finding A and no conditions as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Didn't hear you, did you?
Aye, yes, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Just didn't hear you. Motion carries.
They're cheap, we'll give you another.
Item C.
Okay, me again. So in this case, the Fairgrounds Minor Impact Subdivision Amendment, that's what we're looking at here. Western Heritage Event Center, Inc. and this body have applied for approval of PLN 22017, the Fairgrounds Minor Impact Subdivision Amendment 2022-01 Final Plat, being a minor lot line adjustment of lots 1M and 2M, creating lot 1MZ and lot 2MZ at 334B and 334C, US Highway 84. Purpose of this action is to transfer ownership of the recently completed Hughes Pavilion Arena to the Board of County Commissioners per the terms of the Rodeo Grounds and Fairgrounds Joint Use and Development Agreement. So the regulatory sections that apply are exactly the same as in the last case. So there was no sketch plan or preliminary plat review, and this is just a public meeting, not a public hearing. Amendment will not eliminate or create new lots. It simply realigns the existing lots to encompass the new pavilion onto the Archuleta County side. Parcel is zoned agricultural ranching, and the future land use map designates it for very low density residential development. Again, this is consistent with the changes. This project was staffed out. There were comments received from the county surveyor, and I did my review and created the standards and review matrix, which was attached to this report. There were several conditions based on that review. Planning Commission reviewed the petition at their March 23rd meeting, and their recommendations are reflected here after a unanimous vote. So based on the evidence provided, Planning Commission recommends the Board of County Commissioners finds that the application does meet the review criteria for an amended MLLA final plat in sections 4.4 and 4.6 of the Archuleta County Land Use Regulations, and that the Board of County Commissioners approve PLN 22017, the Fairground Minor Impact Subdivision Amendment 2022-01 final plat, being a minor lot line adjustment of lots 1M and 2M to create lot 1MZ and lot 2MZ with the following conditions. 1, the applicant must add a note indicating that the amendment will fulfill terms of the Rodeo Grounds and Fairgrounds Joint Use and Development Agreement dated February 24, 2022 at reception number listed in the report. Applicants must add right-of-way widths for US Highway 84 and County Road 302 Mill Creek Road. Applicant must add C reception number and then the reception number listed to the end of note 2. Applicant must move the note of ownership for the parcel to the south, which reads State of Colorado Department of Natural Resources, so that it is not easily mistaken as part of the dimensions above in its current location. And the applicant must move the detail section outside of the main depiction, perhaps the empty space in the lower left. Slide in the main depiction to the right if needed. So I think if you look at this plat map itself, some of those make sense if you can see what those are. But those are all things that are either required to make sure there's clarity on the plat or required by statute came from the county surveyor. Any questions?
No, I don't have any. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve PLN 22-017, the Fairgrounds Minor Impact Subdivision Amendment 2022-01 final plat with finding A and conditions 1 through 5 as presented.
Any motion, is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, thank you, Kevin. 252, we're gonna adjourn the land use regulation hearing and convene the liquor board. Yes, Jamie, raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, with the proclamation earlier of the library week, they have a special use, special events permit for the Ruby and Sisson Memorial Library Foundation. This application is to sell malt booze and spirituous liquor at the PLPOA Clubhouse located at 230 Court Ave, Pagosa Springs, Colorado for the Ruby and Sisson Memorial Library Foundation fundraiser on April 9th, 2022. The sheriff has been notified of this event. Proper fees were collected and the premises was posted for the required 10 days prior to today's hearing. Financial impact to the county is the fees paid for the county fee schedule, and staff recommends approval of the special events permit.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve special events permit for the Ruby M. Sisson Memorial Library Foundation for their fundraiser on April 9th, 2022 is presented.
Second. A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, liquor board consent agenda.
I'm looking for a consent agenda.
One more. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
It's like jumping the gun.
Somebody turn on the air conditioner.
Item A is consideration of a special events permit, Item A, consideration and approval of a liquor store license renewal for Pagosa Liquor, Inc., DBA Pagosa Liquor. And item B, consideration and approval of a liquor store license renewal for Piedra Peak General Store, LLC, DBA Piedra Peak General Store. That concludes the consent agenda for the liquor board.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the liquor board consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Here, we'll convene the liquor board at 2:52 and reconvene the regular meeting. Sorry, 2:55. Look close now. On the consent agenda.
On the regular consent agenda is item A, payable warrants and purchase cards, March 16, 2022, to April 5, 2022, regular board meeting minutes of March 15, 2022. Item C, the ratification of the commissioner's signature on a certificate of appreciation for Mary Ann Bouts. Item D, consideration of the board of resolution 2022-22, appointing Dallas Weaver to the tourism board. Item E is consideration of resolution 2022-23, appointing Tim Hatch as the chief building official. Item F, consideration of resolution 2022-24, to consolidate 2 lots into 1 lot, Holiday Acres subdivision, unit 3, owned by William E. and Janice K. Berger Management Trust. Item G, consideration of resolution 2022-25, to consolidate 3 lots into 1 lot in the reserve at Pagosa Peak, Phase 4, owned by MPC Mountain Retreat LLC. Item H, consideration and approval of letters of support for the county administration project. Item I, consideration and approval of letters of support for the San Juan River Emergency Slope Stabilization Project. Item J, consideration and approval of joint letters of support to Senate Appropriations Committee for Build Pagosa. Item K, consideration and approval of letter of support to Colorado Parks and Wildlife for Southern Ute Indian Tribes no release position. Item L, consideration and approval of intergovernmental agreement with La Plata County regarding social services. Item M, consideration and approval of First Amendment to independent contractor agreement with Waistline Incorporated. And that's the end of the consent agenda.
Okay, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Excuse me. The old business.
Old business, item A is consideration of proposals to purchase 449 San Juan Street building. The Board of County Commissioners received multiple offers to purchase the 449 San Juan Street building. At the regular meeting on March 1st, 2022, the BoCC directed staff to have a financial analyst run a comparison of the bids and provide an analysis at the April 5th work session, prior to a possible decision at their April 5th regular meeting. We have that meeting this morning, work session, and the financial analyst was present and provided you with his findings.
Commissioners have any questions or comments?
I think we're gonna have one comment on. would wait to reserve my comment after we hear from them.
Okay.
Sure.
I know there's those present who probably wish to make a public comment in reference to this item. So I think we'll start with, remember the name, Jamie, Vincent? Mr. Vincent, he was live. Always in. Vincent? Yes. Sorry, get the right one. So,
He's on, but just waiting. I don't know if he's listening.
No.
He's on here.
Alright, well, I guess we'll wait for him to raise his hand.
Is there any way to reach out to him?
I think that Mary did have communication with his staff member and told him that he would be allowed to speak.
Yeah.
So,
He was, talked to his realtor
right
after the work session and said during this public comment, during this item, he just needs to notify us that he's ready to speak during this item, and you can do that by clicking on the raised hand on Zoom.
Alright, well, we'll wait and see if he does. Anybody else present, you wanna make a comment? Go ahead, approach your podium, state your name and address for about 3 minutes, sir.
There, I heard somebody.
Oh, yeah, he's on.
Okay, Mr. Van Zandt, you'll stand by. Well, we can take you now if you're ready.
Thank you, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You want, go ahead and state your name and address for the record, and then we'll give you 3 minutes to comment.
Yeah, Whitney Van Zandt, address 605 West 47th Street, Kansas City, Missouri, 64112. And I guess the comment, one thing that I found that I wanted to inquire about in regards to the different bids on the San Juan street building. Has there been analysis done of the economic input that the plans for the building are going to foretell? I know that it appears that there's been a lot of analysis done on the current offers on the table, which is important. But in these types of, in this circumstance in the past, I know it's arguably the bigger point than the offer that's on the table, which, a lot of them are I think, pretty similar in nature, is what's the, how is the future plans for the building going to impact the economic situation for the city, and specifically, with employment taxes, sales taxes, property taxes. I know that in my own circumstance, I haven't, we've put that we wanted to provide lodging and restaurant, but it's been pretty limited. The inquiry hasn't been made beyond that. So I'm kind of wondering about where that stands.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Todd.
Mr. Van Zandt, this is Todd Weir, the county attorney. There has not been any type of analysis about potential uses for the property. And any forecast, I think, would be kind of speculative in nature and very hard to predict. I mean, quite frankly, from the county's position, once the property is sold, it's really up to whoever ends up purchasing it to determine the vision for it. It's within the town limits. From our perspective, it's really not, it'll have to meet the vision of the town itself and not really the county. Right now, obviously, the property is not generating any property taxes because it's county owned. So any use other than a governmental use will provide benefits to both the town and the county. But there has not been really a deep dive or request or maybe the offers to describe the vision for what they want to do with the property. We feel that that's up to whoever ends up purchasing the property to help that move forward in conjunction with what the town would like to see there, because it's within their purview when it comes to review of the construction, whatever happens there. Hopefully that kind of answers your question.
It does. So in that analysis, I just so I understand it clearly, it's really going to stop at the offer standpoint. It's there's no additional contingencies involved with these offers.
Yeah, the comparison was just based upon the offers that got presented to the board, and that was the analysis before. I really didn't ask the financial analyst to dive into what the potential use of the property and any forecast or potential revenues from property taxes to sales taxes. We felt that was too speculative and would be, pulling ideas out of the air where we don't have enough information to really move forward with that type of analysis.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me. Okay, now, Robert, do you have a comment?
Mr. Commissioners,
Name and address, please.
Yep. Bob Hart, 250 Pagosa Street, Pagosa Springs. So I think my comments made pretty clear this morning what I thought of the analysis that the taxpayers for this county paid for. I don't know how much they paid for it. I would like to know. But that analysis was inaccurate. And after the meeting, I spoke with Troy, I believe his name was, and he agreed. He had some errors in there, and he was gonna rework it. I certainly hope that commissioners will wait and relook at his new analysis before any decision is made. And secondly, this is really the main one. The fact that one bid was put in after the deadline that was motioned and agreed to and passed by the commissioners, is just wrong, plain wrong. So again, like I said in my letter, I believe that offer needs to be withdrawn. It's the only fair thing to do. Everyone else that abided by the rules. That's it.
Thank you. Jamie?
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Jamie Scholl, 543 Park Avenue. I represent the investment group, myself, Dave Lozer, and David Blumhart. We're offer number 5 on the sheet. And I also, too, would just like to reiterate what we talked about this morning. We also feel that those of us that were in the bid process, we worked really hard to try to follow the rules that were set out, and all we really want in this is a level playing field, so everybody has the same opportunity to come into it. We don't feel that whatever happened with the Urbanzic offer was fair. It doesn't follow the timelines of the due dates and the deadlines. And after we found out in the meeting this morning that he withdrew his offer the evening of the date of the deadline and offer, which in our opinion means that his offer on January 19th was still in effect. Okay, but that offer, what's really odd to us is miraculously that offer was modified by $200,000 at some point with no date on it, and it just doesn't look right to us. And I'd like to see if you guys can get to the bottom of it. I too spoke with Troy after the meeting,
he agreed that there were some issues in there. He also agreed to doing that present value calculation after we talked about it. He felt that was a more accurate way to analyze the inspections. The other point we had was that there were some clarification items that were in the bids that he wasn't sure of. We actually had some discussion and agreement, because I misunderstood some of the offers, and then he misunderstood some of the stuff we do. So he really needs to understand some of the nuts and bolts, because we were asked to do not a formal, what I would consider a formal real estate offer. They were considered to be kind of high level, you know, offers with as much details we want to provide, but we were told specifically, particularly in the redo of the offers, because our prior offers were pretty lengthy, and we were told just to summarize it, just to keep it simple, and I think that's what he used and didn't have clarification on issues. And one thing I'm specifically referring to is our lease. Okay, our lease is a hard 2 years. We put that in there to make our numbers work. We did not put any clarity beyond 2 years, yet Troy made some assumptions that weren't accurate in the report. And that's just one example of about 10 that we found and talked about. So I would encourage you guys to kind of regroup and look at this, level playing field, and let's move forward, because we're in agreement. We want to do what's right for the county. We want the best deal for the county. We want the best building in that place. We want the greatest economic impact that we can. And it's such an important decision that I think it needs to be, done properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, that's a 446 Main Street. I didn't make an offer on the property, but I completely agree with what you just heard from two gentlemen who were involved in the offers. I think there was a fairness issue where one person was allowed to see everybody else's offer after the final offers were put in, and somehow was able to beat those offers, apparently, according to Troy, who seemed very enamored with that late bid that was, in my opinion, unfairly accepted. I did find inaccuracies myself from looking at and being part of listening to all this process over the last few months. There were inaccuracies in what Troy delivered to you. That's very disappointing to me. I wonder if he's the right person to even do this, if he gives you inaccurate information in his report. You mentioned that there's only one bidder that gave you the financial information about their ability to fund their offer. I don't understand why that happened. That seems unfair, that you would request financial information from your bidders and they don't give it to you. There was a mention at your work session about affordable housing. Well, there's actually two mentions. One bidder is offering to build some affordable housing as part of the remodel. And another bidder said, we don't need affordable housing on the river. We need affordable housing wherever we can get it. There's affordable housing all up and down the river in downtown Pagosa. It's where we live, those of us who live here and work here. And to say that working people don't deserve a view of the river, I think is an unfortunate contention. Because we like the river as much as the tourists do. And so I hope you will either find a new analyst to look at these issues who will actually interview the submitters and get the real information completely, or you'll go back to Troy and say, Troy, do this over because it wasn't right. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioners, have any comments?
I think I'd like to speak just to a couple things. again, as I stated this morning, this is a real estate offer process, not a sealed bid process. I think that it should have been a sealed bid process, because honestly, everybody who's put in an offer after Mr. Janae got to see what Mr. Janae's offer was, and then base their offer off of what they see. So when we're talking about fairness, I think that it should have been a sealed bid offer, but it was not. That's not the process that was used, and it wasn't a bid. These were offers that came in. So this has been going on for 7 years. 7 years to get to this point. I know that there's thought that there's no plan. Well, I can tell you, if you never start, you will never finish. And that's for sure. I don't like kicking the can down the road, and I think one of the disservices that people in a position of government do is that they do not make decisions in a timely manner. They don't, because they're often the hard decisions to make. And frankly, they don't want to take the flack for making decisions. And so we put it off until we can just slip it in and nobody notices. And that's irresponsible governing, in my opinion. You know, when all these offers came in looking at these, as I said this morning, I'm no financial wizard. I'm not a real estate expert. And that's why I suggested that we have a financial evaluation of the value of these offers, so we could make the best decision. I could make the best decision that I can make based upon what we receive. I did hear this morning that the gentleman that did the evaluation for us from Northland, he said that there was one item that he did not put in his analysis, and that was Mr. Hart in allowing the county to stay in the property for a 5-year period. And I agree, that wasn't in the written analysis. In the attachment, however, it was in the attachment. I also kept every offer that we received. And yes, I did read it before we got to today, many times. And I've read it, I think, 3 more times today. Question, Mr. Hart?
Yeah, did you see in there too, though, that my offer, in my offer, it says 5 years free rent, plus, as long after that as they want to stay, they're paying a rent.
Yes, sir, I did see that.
Which makes it the most flexible offer for the county government.
Yes, sir, I did read that. I think that's, I think that's on like page 8, if I'm not mistaken. So I did see that, thank you. And so in getting Mr. Bernberger and Northland to do this, the county did spend the money to try to make sure that we're able to make the best decision that we can make. And I think it's important to consider the ability of the potential buyer to close in a timely manner with the fewest delineated contingencies that might derail the whole process. We spoke to it briefly this morning. We go into negotiations and it falls apart. We come back 30, 60, 90 days, whatever the time frame is. And essentially we start the process again. And we're now into it 7 years and 9 months. And I can tell you, and I expect you might agree, building today is more expensive than building 7 years ago would have been. So at every turn, we just keep pushing off and we keep increasing the cost of doing business to the taxpayer. And I feel it's my obligation at the end of the day to look out what's best for the county. Who has the best financial offer, who has the best ability to close in a timely manner, and who offers the county to remain and to use 449 San Juan at the least cost to the county. And I think it's also it's important that I consider remodel versus demolition. And there are many people here, many constituents that I've spoken with, they do not want to see the character of the town changed. they want to retain that character. And I think that we also have to look out and consider demolition versus remodel, the amount of landfill space that will certainly require more space if there's a demolition versus a remodel. So those are all the things that I'm looking at and trying to make this decision. And I think it's just important that I share that with you so you know where I'm coming from. I don't ask you to agree with it. I'm just letting you know this is kind of my reasoning and my thought process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mace? You got nothing? Okay. Okay, well, I totally understand it. Things that were brought up, I believe Mr. Burdenberg did exactly what was asked of him by the county. We didn't compare the apples to apples, and as you requested, and I'm not gonna word it right, so I'm not gonna say it, but earlier this morning, in some of the offers, monetarily after the bid, and he wasn't asked to. He was asked to turn this around, and Troy and I aren't big buddies, we don't hang out, but I don't like seeing people's capabilities, their work attached to something like this when he did what he was asked. Exactly what he was asked, and he did the best he could. So I want to point that out. And I share the concerns that I said this morning, you guys were all there, of not doing something. That we've been dragging this process out for 2 years. And so I know, and maybe I'll bring it up. Our attorney was gonna mention maybe the discussion I had. I'm not opposed to saying, I think there's some heartburn over maybe how this was going. I didn't have a hand in it, so I didn't receive the bids. I know that his bid was still valid at the day and time specified by the board for the last receipt. So I wouldn't be opposed to, we give, what is this today, Tuesday, sorry, 3 days. And be done. I'm not opposed to making a decision right now, but 3 days for you guys to think you can do better, that's fine. And I hate to do that because I don't want to lose anybody who's already there. I stated that in the last meeting. So I understand the concerns that you guys have brought up, but let's not attack Mr. Bernberg. He did what was asked of him, and I know you guys had a conversation with him afterwards, and there's other things maybe you can do, but I don't know if it's necessary or not. But, go ahead, Mr. Bernberg.
Can I comment on what you just said? Can I?
Can I make it brief? Go ahead, first. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure how you can sit there and say that he did what he was asked to do when his report said offer number one was the best, most flexible offer in the county.
Sir, I didn't tell you whether he was correct or not. I said he did what was asked of him, and he did it in a short amount of time. I did not say he was correct.
But he did not take all the information. Even my second bid wasn't even fully analyzed.
And that can be said about Mr. Scholl's bid and every other bid there too. I
If
think he
that's
left
the
stuff out
case,
of that as well.
If that's the case, the county people paid for this report. Don't they deserve a report that's accurate and has all the details?
He wasn't asked to contact you guys. Like I said, he did what was asked of him by us.
It was all in the bids.
Yes, but you and I both know stuff can be missed. And
So-
he even stated this morning that having contact with the bidders would help him make a better decision. So,
Whatever, he had wrong information presented as the most important.
well, I'm not gonna argue that with you. Like I said, I didn't say that he was correct. I just said he did what was asked by the county. And that's all I wanted to get across.
Okay, I don't believe someone presenting, a professional presenting a report that has inaccurate information should be accepted by the county and the taxpayers.
Really noted. Any further comments?
I think Mr. Weaver may have had a comment.
Good.
No really have a comment, just presenting a potential option for the board to consider given the allegations of the timely or untimely offer, I know the board's, it's been 2 years. I don't know if there's an appetite to just, again, a 2-week delay. What I would suggest to address those issues, again, would be, say, table the decision to the next meeting, the very next meeting on the 19th, and then allow those who have submitted offers, no new offers, but those who have submitted offers to date, have until, say, Friday at noon to submit any revised offers to purchase the old courthouse. And that's it. And if they don't submit a revised offer, their current offer stands. So it gives an option for everyone who's made an offer so far to revise if they so choose so. And if they don't choose so, then their offer currently before the board stands.
That's what I was alluding to. Is that including the one in question?
All offers that are that have been considered by the board, including Mr. Urbanzic's offer, yes, because that was not withdrawn. So, yeah, that offer still stood. So, if Mr. Urbanzic or anyone else on this list, these 5, well, actually, there's 2 from Mr. Hart, so I can stick with these 4 groups, who have now submitted offers that have been analyzed to say Friday at noon, or sometime as the board would like to do. If they would like to revise at that time, they can, but that's the deadline. And if so if you want to get that's just an option for the board to consider.
And that's what I was alluding to with the 3 days. Mr. Hart.
I do agree with the county attorney, however, when I turned in my bid, and I think, Jamie may have something to say about this too. There was not an offer from, I made offer 1.
Mr. Urbanzic.
There was not an offer, so we're not, there's no date on that offer, there's no signature on that offer. And there's a 5 o'clock, when you guys said the deadline was 5 o'clock on the 22nd, he had not turned in an additional offer. Now, he had one in since January 19th, but that other offer was not in at 5 o'clock. But I asked when I turned mine in. I think Jeremy may be able to verify that. Thank you.
So if I might speak to that. I think as I'm trying to piece these puzzle pieces together, it looks like the comments that Mr. Urbanzic made in the public meeting, I think explained in that the non-dated document is the way that I'm taking that. I don't know if I see anything new that was beyond that comment and what the January submission was, as far as I can tell. So just for whatever value that might have to you. Because I'm trying to piece and part this together.
It was a totally different offer.
Just kind of getting at the heart of what we're talking about, what's frustrating for us is we feel like we're shooting at a moving target. We don't know what the target is. That's been the frustration all along for most of us bidders, is the fact that we don't know what you guys really want out of it. You want cash, do you want a lease, do you want to stay there? You know, do you have a vision, whatever. So we basically have spent the last year throwing darts at the dartboard, trying to figure out what you guys want. As you guys know, our group has had 4 different offers on the property in the last year. And most of it has been trying to glean what we're understanding is going on. So, Mr. Weaver's comments here, if we open it up again, what is our target point? Okay, are we targeting right now, based upon the report this morning, I call it the mystery offer from Mr. Urbanzic, okay? Not knowing where that came from, is that our target point now
that we're shooting for? Or are we shooting for the target point of what we see in the public record, which is his offer that should be on the table as of January 19th, okay? That January 19th, I would agree with you, Commissioner Brown, that he had talked about, I was in a meeting, he talked about the land that he was gonna offer, and it was kind of nebulous. But to me, that's not really the issue. The issue is his cash up front went from $250,000 to $450,000 out of thin air. And we can't document it anywhere in the public record as to where that came from. And so we just please give us some guidelines on what we're shooting at. If we're shooting at what's on the table, if you guys have and you use his offer of January 19th, then it's pretty simple. It boils down to Mr. Hart and our group. Okay? Okay, because his offer it falls below. If you're taking the mystery offer with the extra $20,000, then that's a new point that we're trying to shoot at if you open it up for another 3 days. And I would just ask you to please just give us some clarity in the process. That's all we really want. Thanks.
Is there anything else?
I guess my thought is, I don't like pushing this off. I don't like it. But I can also see the points that are being made. And if we're going to continue this for 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, I don't care what the arguments are, I'm going to make a suggestion on decision. I'm gonna make a suggestion on decision, we're gonna move down the road. Make us an offer we can't refuse. If you want it narrowed down, make us an offer we can't refuse. Because it's not for me, it's not for these commissioners, it's for the county, it's for the people that live here. You know, I don't like the way that this process is handled, but this is where we are. And in my view, we either make the decision today, or we darn sure make that decision in 2 weeks. And if that's a resubmission, by all included, because it's what's best for the county, all included bids that we're entertaining, then we go down that road.
Still have no comments?
You know, I agree with Commissioner Brown on this. You know, the thing is you wanna know what we need? We need the most we can get. That's what we need. We gotta build another building to house these other people in this building. The one thing is if we go back out and come back for another 2 weeks, you know, hey, who knows? You know, we got some people who really wanna make an offer. There might be other people that wanna make another offer. You know, if we wanna hit the line about being fair, and if there's question about any of the stuff that's already been done, 2 weeks doesn't seem a bad idea to me, but open it all up. This might have sparked other intentions. In fact, even Jamie's other partner said usually they're the ones, once they get involved, they create the mechanism of other people wanting to jump on board too because somebody finally wants it. And it creates a big grab for it. I'd rather see this go through with the plan for the replacement of the building we're about to sell. But I do agree we need to start someplace, and this morning's discussion was, you know, we can enter into a person which one we want to sell to, and then negotiate it out, and then those negotiations can fall through too as well. But we do need to start someplace. And if we need to start in 2 more weeks, I'm not opposed to that. But we need to start right after that.
Yeah, I'm not going to put it out longer than that, and that's what I was trying to say earlier. If we give them 3 days, I'm good with that. We need to make a choice later.
Can we make the next offers be sealed?
I don't know if it'd be relevant at that point.
Yeah, I mean,
But
they'll be
submitted.
submitted to the county. No one else is going to see them other than the county, and my board and staff. And they will be made public until the agenda is published for the 19th, and that's there will be no opportunity to revise them. So it's, you know, we have the offers now that are made public, but, you know, the offers after that won't be made public until they go public.
May I make an additional comment?
Yes.
Commissioner Mace, to your comment about opening up to everybody, I think we also have to consider the fairness to the folks that have put all the work into this. And I would prefer if we keep that solely to the bidders that we have at this point, out of fairness and respect for the work that they've done. I think they've all
had a lot of patience too.
Well, probably more than they should, in all honesty, but I think out of consideration for them and the work that they've done and what they put into this, I would like us to stick to just these bidders. Because this is going to be and require a decision on the 19th if it gets pushed to that. 19th, no more. Just my thoughts.
Okay. We've had a lot of stuff we don't normally do today. I have to apologize. This morning, Mr. Loser, when I took your comment, I thought it was too many Davids in the room and involved. I thought it was another David who was present here I was taking comment from. So I allowed you to speak, and that's why we took comment from Mr. Vincent this afternoon. So David is on and he wants time to speak, so we're gonna allow it. But in the future, it won't be allowed. I'll do a better job of recognizing names. So, go ahead, Dave.
Okay.
State your name and address, please.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Listen, thank you for kind of letting me in. I've listened, it's kind of tough doing this remotely. I just have a couple of kind of comments that, that I feel you should consider. When in these kinds of situations, the worst thing that anybody can do is get hard on an opinion. And, kind of get locked in. I think Ronnie articulated some things real well. One, I think maybe we all could agree it wasn't a masterfully, planned and executed process. Some of these things often go that way. But the fact is, in my opinion, we had a process. And the process is a good process. And to do something other than, and go another process on top of the process, in my judgment, isn't the optimal. I think that you should stand by the letters of the process. And I believe that if you need clarifications, that you can get some clarifications. And then I honestly do believe that the financial analysis needs more detail. I don't want to be critical, but it was a very thin financial analysis would probably be the most constructive way to say it. I believe that you guys are very well intended, but I've been in the process and you've gone, Jamie articulated it well, from, let's sell the building to the last meeting I attended a week or so ago was, maybe we should split the property and not sell it. So we, and that's okay. These processes sometimes tend to go around and around. Today, we're talking about, wow, it's urgent that we sell the property. So I'm not sure if it's urgent or not urgent, but that's why I say fairness says I'm sticking to the process. And it sounds like perhaps somebody is ineligible in the process, and perhaps some of the financials need vetting more, and then just go with it. And I wouldn't operate on assumptions. I'd operate on facts. I do understand, and I want the town to get the best deal. But best is different in different people's minds. It needs a good long-term and short-term economic solution. I love the town, and that's what I want. And our commitment is to provide that. So I'm just kind of giving you guys, maybe you can discount me, I guess, or pocket veto me, but I'd like to give you just a couple of kind of thoughts. And just, when you all kind of put your heads together to consider. I mean, we've gone through a process. Now we're changing the rules of the process. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense either. I think I've heard with some vigor out of you guys, you want to get a decision made, so do all of the bidders. And I don't know all of the bidders. years. I certainly respect Bob Hart's opinions and what he has put in writing. You know, it is really more meaningful. We've probably been, we put things in writing too, but we've really wanted to kind of work with the town. I think Bob has too. I don't know anything about the other bidders. I'm sure they're quality people. But I do know that you have two that are in front of you there that are well intended from my vantage point. And of course, I'm listening on a Zoom call from distance. So one, thank you guys. I really have enjoyed the process. We put a lot of time and energy into it, a lot that you haven't seen. And our intentions are great. I'm sure Bob's are. I think some of the other ones, I don't know, but I think that we've certainly talked about a questionable in terms of timing, and you know, it just opens the door to all kinds of innuendo, which is not. I think you follow the process, and then it shuts that one down, and people can't argue with it. So, thanks for allowing me the time. You know, on my phone, I've got this, you know, five-fingered hand that shows up, but I'm never really sure whether I get recognized or not. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anything else from the commissioners? No. I entertain a motion.
I would like to comment on Mr. Lozier's statement. And I would have to say that I respectfully disagree with Mr. Lozier's assessment of the ineligibility of Mr. Urbantic's bid, because it was 9 o'clock after the date or time of submission. So I think that it's a valid bid, and it's within our purview as the commissioners to accept that bid. And I think that was the road that we went down. So, and I don't know how the other folks feel in here, if you're wanting a decision today or at another time. But I have to tell you that according to what Mr. Schultz, you're saying, is that Mr. Urbantic's offer is $200,000 more than the next offer. Like Mr. Hart, did you not say that, Jamie?
No.
I'm sorry. Could you tell me what you had said again? Because I don't want to misquote you.
Right, I said his offer, the one that we consider his valid offer, was within the time frame on January 19th, is $200,000 less than what was on the analysis sheet that he did. And that's the part of the issue. It's $200,000 difference between what we think is a valid offer. So if you guys can tell us, I mean, I'm sure we're fine. If you guys say, we're gonna go with Mr. Urbantic's offer as of January 19th, because that's kind of what you just said, because he didn't withdraw it. I agree with that. He did not withdraw it until after the deadline. So that reverts back to his January 19th. And if you're saying, okay, we're gonna compare his January 19th offer in the analysis, which was not done. What was done was an updated offer to that January 19th that came in somewhere after the deadline. But who knows? We don't have a time frame when that came in. And that's what we're questioning here. So I would be all in favor, if you guys can tell us right now that we're competing against Mr. Urbantic's January 19th offer, have at it, make a decision, okay? And we might even come to an agreement on how, because it really, when we look at it, it's a tie between Bob and us, okay? We might help you both work out on this deal, okay? What's given us the heartburn is the fact that that $200,000 came in from out of the blue. And if you're gonna do that, I might just come in and say, now, I'll throw another $200,000 into our offer right now. That wouldn't be fair, okay? That wouldn't be fair to the process that Mr. Lozier just talked about, so I hope that answers your question.
That's on the contract.
Okay. All right, entertain a motion.
I think based upon what we have right here, and I don't know when this came in, but the number I motion to accept the bid from Ronnie Urbanski at $250,000 for the purchase of 449 San Juan Street. And that we enter into negotiations with the same.
450.
Sorry?
You said 250, 450.
That was the cash in advance,
Oh,
correct?
I'm sorry.
Am I reading that correctly? Could you help me out with that time? Am I looking at that correctly?
All I have in front of me is the table from the financial analysis, so
Okay.
I don't have.
Would you mind asking Mr. Hart?
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Hart.
You guys are gonna accept an offer, undated offer, that came in after the deadline. You need to open up right now to additional offers to us or anyone else that bid. Because he did not meet the deadline with that new offer. So if you're gonna do that, you have to allow us to put in another offer, just after the 5 o'clock deadline. He did it, we can do it.
And that was the purpose of my question earlier to all the folks there, you and Jamie specifically.
So I might ask him, how can you make a motion to that effect and not ask for anyone else to put in a motion after the 5 o'clock deadline?
So when we're looking at the best offer that's here, I'm going off the offer that we have, if it is the valid offer as it's presented to me.
I understand, but that was after the deadline that you three decided that 5 o'clock deadline was. You can't accept one that was after that unless you open it to everyone.
Well, I guess I just considered what Mr. Lozier's statement was, that there was a process. And that he believes that the process has been the process.
No,
Because I sat here and I said, I'm open to the 2 weeks.
You said he disagreed with that one being accepted as a bid.
Duly noted, I didn't agree with that. Duly noted.
You're not answering my question though. How can you accept the offer that's put in after the deadline, but not open it to anyone else after the deadline?
Mr. Logan wants to talk. Go ahead, Todd.
There are claims that the offer was after the deadline. There is no actual proof of that.
I have proof, because I was there when I put in my offer and asked.
You can't rely on staff statements because they may not know the information right in front of them. And that's actually Colorado law.
Was there a date on the officer, sir?
Sir, I don't have the information in front of me.
Was
So
there a date?
you are just repeating the same thing over and over doesn't make it true. So by saying over and over again that it was after the deadline doesn't make it true.
And just
That's your opinion, we appreciate it, we maybe understand that, and the board will receive that.
And
information.
accepting that it was an undated offer over and over and then making a motion on it is not right
The
either.
board can make a motion of anything they desire to, the decision.
I know they can.
And therefore, I appreciate your input, but it's time, the motion's been made, and the board needs to move forward. After the motion's been made, there should be no further comment accepted, except for the board members who like to comment on the motion. That's it.
That was my bad. I recognize Mr. Hart.
Okay. Is there a motion for a second? Motion dies for lack of second. Okay. Are we willing to make an additional motion? No, I will attempt. You good?
At this point in time, if I was to make a motion, my motion would be to not sell the courthouse at this point in time. And if you would like to entertain a motion, I move that we do not sell the courthouse at this point in time.
Here, here.
Okay, motion dies for lack of second. I'll try one. We'll see if it goes anywhere. If not, then we'll just move on. Move to reject all bids received to date for the purchase of 449 San Juan Street building and direct staff to put the sale out to bid till Friday of this week. To make a decision in 2 weeks' time. Wow, that's good.
So,
So, I'm trying to look at the calendar.
It would be March 19th, I believe. You gonna be out then?
No.
April 19th.
Or sorry, April. I had the right date in mind, just didn't speak it.
So, just for clarification, your motion that it be submitted on the 8th of April, this coming Friday, or the
This Friday.
15th?
No, this Friday.
Okay. I'll second that.
Tom, you got something? Read it.
I was just gonna ask for clarification along the lines of who's gonna be allowed to submit a revised offer by Friday at whatever time you decide upon. Is it gonna be open to anyone or open to the
Okay,
current offerors?
clarification, just the current officer that we had the analysis done on.
Okay, thank you.
Amend my motion.
And do you have a time?
Let's say end of business, 5 o'clock.
5 p.m.
A second.
Okay. Got a motion, a second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion passes with split decision. Okay, on the new business. We just heard from the attorney that we're not gonna make any more comment after the motion's been made and accepted.
I have
So
some questions as to
Point
the
of
motion.
clarification.
Yes.
we can clarify that, I think that stuff with our county manager after the meeting, if that works. I
Point of
think,
clarification, take exception for clarification.
The board's made a decision on moving on.
I understand that, I'm addressing the board.
I'm sorry, but the board's made a decision, it's time to move on.
I think we spent enough time on this. I'll be here after the meeting.
Right.
He'll be here after the meeting. We've already made the motion and
Just
passed.
trying to prevent what happened this morning from happening again.
Clarification.
So we'll take that into consideration. New business. Item 8 in new business. Afternoon.
I know. Tina Woodman, HR Director, Archuleta County. On March 1st, I presented the commissioners with a proposal to initiate an Employee of the Month program with the county employees. This would be an opportunity to recognize employees and show them appreciation. We had submissions from county employees, and the submissions were then forwarded to you, and so I'm here today to ask if you have picked an employee to be the April Employee of the Month.
Excuse me. I believe we have. I think there was 9 applicants. Right? Well, 10, you're correct.
Yes.
There was 10 submitted. Because there's one's the same. I thought there was only 9.
9 people.
Yes, 9 submissions. Yes, 9 people, 10 submissions. Okay, yes, the math's not adding up when I count it.
One person got 2.
One person got 2.
Right, one person got 2, so
Yes.
that would make it 10. Well, I was just looking at the deal. Looking at my packet. So yes, I believe we did come up with a consensus. I know that when I went through them, anyone that was submitted could have been my pick. So it made it difficult. The thing that made it a lot easier was one person had 2 nominations, so 2 separate people, so that kind of helped a bunch. So I think in my mind, I jumped to the top just because of that, but anybody that I saw nomination for was been great.
It was nominee number 2.
Nominee
Yes.
number 2.
Number 2.
And so we will publicly acknowledge that person on April 12th in the regular meeting.
We need to let the person know to be here.
Work session.
Yes.
So we didn't tell
That's
her.
work session.
Work session.
It's not a regular meeting till the 19th.
Right.
So you did a regular meeting on the 19th, but.
Pardon me, we're gonna do the 12th at the work session. Do you want to announce who number 2 is, or do you want me to let that person know?
No, I think we can announce it. Same thing as you guys went with Allison Wiley. We can't say enough good about Allison Wiley. She's always here. I've never seen her with a sour attitude, never seen her not smiling. Always just, and her work is, I don't know, I don't work in there directly with her, but I've never heard anything that anybody's had to go back and review her work because it's not correct, so. She's just a great person to be around.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I will see you
Thank
next
you.
month.
Thank you.
Okay, I entertain a motion. One item A, yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I move to select Allison Wiley as Archuleta County's Employee of the Month for April 2022.
I second.
Been a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, item B. Jimmy Jones.
Yes. So this is a consideration of a special events use park permit at Cloman Park for the Wolf Song Adventures LLC. They want to use Cloman Park for the Cloman Kicker 5K trail race on June 18th, 2022 from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., 4 hours of the day. Wolf Song Adventures is requesting a waiver of the damage deposit of $200. The proper fees for the application and park use were collected, and the financial impact to the county is fees paid per the county fee schedule. Staff recommends approval of this park permit contingent on the application providing proper certification of insurance prior to the event date. The reason why we are applying early on for park permits is so they can start promoting and advertising. Insurance you can't really get until a month prior to the event, so this may come up a lot, just so you guys are aware, because summertime we're gonna do a lot of these. That's what I have.
Commissioners have any questions?
No, sir.
I have none, I entertain a motion.
Can I address,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry.
he's the applicant.
I figured he was. I didn't want to jump to conclusions.
For those who don't know me, I take my county attorney hat off. Tom Weaver, PO Box 285, Pagosa Springs, Colorado. Started Wolfsong Adventures LLC, doing business as Wolfsong Running Adventures. As you all well know, I'm an avid trail ultra runner who likes to torture myself by running crazy distances in the mountains. Yeah, I know, I get a lot of looks. My mother questions my insanity all the time. But started Wolfsong to put on trail races in Pagosa Springs area because there really isn't any anymore. You know, Gecko used to do a number, but they are no longer really operational in the area. Saw an opportunity to put on some races here. Cloman would be a great place to put on a 5K, so 3.1 distance, 3.1 mile distance race. Asking for a waiver of the damage deposit. It's $200. Normally you request a damage deposit just in case the event, producer disappears in thin air and leaves damage to the property. You kind of know where I work. I'm not going to disappear. So that's why I'm asking for the waiver. Just a general information for the board. Plan to have a 5K in June, a 5 miler in July, 10K half marathon in August, and then some type of mountain race in September. And then planning an ultra marathon sometime next year. So just do a little self-promotion. So anyway, that's why I'm asking for a waiver of damage deposit. And planning to do the Cloman Kicker 5K on an annual basis in the late May, early June timeframe.
Also, town tourism has rewarded money to help it.
We got a grant from the tourism board just under $5,000 to help start up the company and pay for equipment that we'll need to put on the races.
Thank you. No further questions, I entertain a motion. You already did that. I didn't think we did. Didn't we? Yeah. We already passed it?
No.
No.
Got a second.
I don't believe you read the whole thing.
Okay. What's that?
I don't think you
We
were
didn't get a motion, actually.
No.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Well,
alter a motion.
Okay, we'll start over. Entertained motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve a special events park permit for Wolf Song Adventures LLC for their event on June 18, 2022, and to approve a waiver of the $200 damage deposit as presented.
Second.
Motion is second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. On to item C.
Hey, Tim.
We're going to
Now,
make you wait.
geez, though, it's the first time I do, I'm supposed to follow Jamie, now I feel like I'm following
At least you're on time.
First of all, I wanna apologize, I'm not here to talk about County Road 982, it's 382. So, that's what I'm here to speak about, is a consideration and approval of a contract for reclamation of asphalt on County Road 382, not 980. Basically, the process is we're gonna go in and mill the existing asphalt, pulverize, crush it, kind of try to reclaim the material, I guess, without contaminating it too much with the underlying materials. At that point, we'll reshape it and spray it with a polymer that will hopefully work kind of like our chloride as a binder, and bind that crushed asphalt back together and roll it. Basically, the cost for Strohecker's proposed bid amount was $35,000 for their portion of the work. This does not include the cost of the polymer. That's an additional $6,900, I do believe, that would be provided by Desert Mountain under a separate contract, or maybe even under the mag chloride contract, if possible. I'm asking for an additional $35,000 on top of Strohecker's bid in the event that we need to supplement the asphalt, the millings basically. If we can't get it clean enough when we go down there with the big reclaimer, I would like to have the ability to add some more asphalt to it. Basically, the more clean asphalt material we have crushed, the better the product. If we're gonna take the time to do it, I'd like to make sure we get it right. CDOT has some materials laying down there on the side of the road that we may or may not be able to get access to. I've asked about it a couple of times, I've got no response. But we also have the mill and overlay project that's gonna be coming through town. So even if we had to wait to spray the polymer until we could get some of that milled asphalt off of 160 to supplement it, we may do that too. But I would like the additional 10 grand just in case for some reason we have to buy it from Strohecker and apply it to the road down there to get it done properly the first time.
So it's only an
So it's
additional
an additional
10,000?
10 for.
10,000, not 40,000.
Right.
Okay.
I thought I was tracking, but.
Yeah.
So then it'd be like 55,000.
45.
Total is 45,000.
That's for Strohecker's contract, this would be 45,000. Then we'd have the additional $6,900 of cost for the polymer, but that is not part of this contract. And that's to do approximately 1 mile of road down there. Just so you're aware of it, there's a potential that we'll have a couple of upset residents down there. Their houses are very close to the road. They feel like they have asphalt, and they want asphalt put back in there, understandably so. We all do. But I think the benefits of doing this is, number one, we're spending a lot of money down there on the maintenance. And 95% of the residents down there would rather have the road removed and put back to gravel even versus doing the crushed asphalt that we're doing. We've received 2 emails just in the last 2 weeks asking us to pull that asphalt up and get gravel down in there and just do mag chloride.
Well, yeah, I give current state, because 95% of it's just patching.
Yes.
Yeah. But if it can extend it with this, I don't have opposition.
I don't either, I don't know, but I do have a question on the 6,900. If you're planning on using that polymer with this, shouldn't that be included with this thing?
It's a separate contract. This contract is strictly for Strohecker. So, and I didn't bring the contract in yet for Desert Mountain, The price I got from them was last year. Desert Mountain would be the one supplying the polymer. I got that price from them last year, and I have been unable to get them to commit to two things this year. Number one, a schedule of doing it next week when they were supposed to do it. And number two, whether or not they would still hit that same price.
Maybe we also need to look for another company.
Just to make sure, Tim, if I may, so as I'm reading this, today you're asking for $45,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that. Thank you.
Nothing further, entertain motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve independent contractor agreement with Strohicker Asphalt Paving for reclamation work on County Road 382 for the amount not to exceed $45,000 as presented.
I second.
A motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, item D. Mr. Weaver?
Yeah, so before you, this afternoon, late in the afternoon, we have a grant sub-recipient agreement with the Archuleta County Housing Corporation. As you recall, back when the ARPA funding, the first tranche came in, the county made a number of awards. Award of $282,050 was made to the Archuleta Housing Corporation. This agreement kind of solidifies and puts on paper the agreement on how those funds are distributed. If you recall, they were going to use it for, if I call right, replacing leaky furnaces and water heaters, installing backflow preventers at each site. So this is just the actual grant agreement for your approval and signature.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve a grant subrecipient agreement for the American Rescue Plan subrecipient award for Archuleta Housing Corp. as presented.
Second. Motion is second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item F. Oh, E, sorry.
E. Yeah, so before you today is a resolution regarding the revising the parameters for the award granting funding for the Community Marijuana Offset Impact Fund. As you recall, there was a request that came in about open eligibility to college students. And so this, so long as high school students were still given the priority, and also about if nonprofits didn't apply, to reallocate that money to be able to use for student scholarships. And so that's what this resolution does, it changes parameters as requested by the board.
Okay, I also read something about the increase of funding on it.
They mentioned,
I don't
support, but they didn't.
Right, so there's been a request from the board that's been set up to make these award recommendations for the awards, and they have requested additional funding. That's not part of this resolution.
Right.
This resolution solely changes the parameters for those who can apply for the scholarship plan.
What's the resolution number?
26.
26? Before I move on this, also there was a suggestion that they need more funding. Well, this is funded by the marijuana permits. In order for us to increase the funding of this, we would have to increase permits in our county, which I'm not opposed to. I think that probably needs to be discussed a little later on down the line, but I just wanted to mention it today. Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to adopt resolution 2022-26, revising the parameters for awarding grant funding from the Community Marijuana Offset Impact Fund as presented.
I'll second.
Got a motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item F.
Item F, Commissioners, is a consideration of resolution 2022-27. Okay, adopting a core policy. So it's a policy and procedures regarding public records, Colorado Open Records Act. Our current policy, in effect, dates from 2012, I believe, so it's over 10 years old, and is rather outdated. And so I county attorney took it upon himself to kind of revise that policy, to put more detail in it, you know, and of course under, I can't remember the exact statute, it might be the resolution itself. Right, so it's 2472-2031A, that we can, basically adopt policies and procedures and how to respond to open records requests under CORA. This would apply to the Warren County Commissioners and all the departments that fall on the board and under the county manager. The elected officials can adopt it if they so wish. It is up to their purview to do so. So if the clerk recorder or the treasurer would like to adopt this policy, they can do so, or they can have their own separate policy. Because sometimes they are a little more constrained by statute and regulations as to what they can and cannot release. I don't know all the details of all those, so they can adopt it or adopt it with their own changes. So that's what it will apply to.
Any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir. I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt resolution 2022-27, adopting the Archuleta County policy and procedures regarding public records under the Colorado Open Records Act as presented.
Second. Been a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item G.
Item G, I think that's the last item of it.
It is.
Item G, consideration and approval of funding request of Upper San Juan Watershed Enhancement Partnership. This in 2021, the Board of County Commissioners approved funding of $10,000 from the Conservation Trust Fund for the South Yamaguchi Park Improvement Project, specifically for enhanced river access points and channel features into the San Juan River. The Upper San Juan Watershed Enhancement Partnership is requesting additional funding of between $10,000 and $20,000 to help defray the costs involved in this project. Again, the funding source would be out of the Conservation Trust Fund.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
No, other than just a comment that this is really gonna help out a lot, and that's what that money's used for. It's gonna work with the Yamaguchi Park in the takeout for the raft, and it's gonna enhance the river for the fishing, and it all fits into the park and rec area, so I think it's a good thing for us to do with the money that we can only use for that.
May I make one additional comment?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So it was learned today that there was an award of $100,000 last year from, oh gosh, it just slipped my mind.
Pickleball.
Pickleball, yes, sorry. That was not allocated in the, or noted anywhere other than the award document. So that's, while we have, I mean, there's still funding available in that. But it is about $100,000 lower, so we're down, to approximately $200,000 or $100,000 today. We can still accommodate that.
Yeah, that's right. That's what that money's for.
Absolutely.
Okay, any comments, questions?
Just a clarification, so with the disbursement of the $100,000 already committed,
correct,
we're still at $100,000
correct
dollar balance, am I understanding that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, nothing further, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve funding request from the Conservation Trust for Watershed Enhancement Partnership in the amount of $20,000 as presented.
Second.
Yes, motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. If there being no further business for this board, adjourn the meeting at 4:12.
Troy, I mean Matt.
If I make another mistake, just let me.